Hello, English learners. Welcome back to Softly Spoken English. I'm Sophia, and I'm really happy to have you here with me today. Find a comfortable place, take a slow breath, and allow yourself to relax. For the next few minutes, you don't need to study or memorize anything. Simply listen to my voice, follow the situations, and let the English come to you naturally, one example at a time. Today, we're going to spend some time with a very small word that appears everywhere in everyday English: only. You've probably heard it in conversations, films, songs, and even simple messages from friends. It may be a short word, but it can express several different ideas. It can show that something is limited, make a situation sound less serious, or help us explain exactly what we mean. Imagine that a friend invites you to dinner at 7, but you're working until 6:30. You might say, "I only have 30 minutes to get ready." Here, only shows that 30 minutes doesn't feel like much time. You're not simply giving information. You're also expressing a feeling. 30 minutes is less time than you would like. Can you hear how this tiny word changes the whole message? Now imagine that you open your wallet and find $10 inside. You could say, "I have $10, and that would simply describe the amount. But if you say, "I only have $10, you're suggesting that $10 may not be enough. Perhaps you wanted to buy lunch, take a taxi, or meet a friend for coffee. Only quietly adds the idea of limitation without requiring a long explanation. You can use only with time as well. Perhaps someone asks, "Have you been waiting long?" You look at the clock and answer, "No, I've only been here for 5 minutes." In this situation, only makes the wait sound short and unimportant. You're helping the other person feel comfortable. It's a natural way to say, "Don't worry. You're not very late, and I haven't been waiting for a long time." Let's stay with that situation for a moment. Your friend arrives looking worried and says, "I'm so sorry I'm late." You smile and reply, "It's okay. I only just got here." This expression is very common in natural conversation. It means you arrived a very short time ago. Even if you've been waiting for a few minutes, saying this can make the moment feel lighter and help your friend relax. Perhaps your phone rings while you're busy, and you wonder whether something important has happened. Then you look at the screen and say, "It's only my sister." This doesn't necessarily mean that your sister is unimportant. It means the situation is not surprising or urgent. You recognize the person, understand why they might be calling, and feel that there is no reason to worry. Context and tone make the meaning clear. Now imagine that you're choosing a birthday gift with a friend. You see a beautiful candle and say, "It's only $15. Here, only makes the price sound small or reasonable. You're suggesting that the candle isn't expensive, so buying it feels like an easy decision. Notice how the same word can make $10 sound insufficient in one situation and $15 sound inexpensive in another. The meaning depends on what you expect. The same thing happens when we talk about age. Imagine meeting someone who has already started a successful business. You're surprised to discover that she's only 22. In this sentence, only suggests that 22 feels young for what she has achieved. Or perhaps you see a very energetic little dog and learn that he's only 6 months old. The number is neutral, but only reveals your reaction to it: younger, smaller, or earlier than expected. Only is also useful when you want to be very clear about who can do something. Imagine that you're visiting a small office and see a door with a sign saying, "Staff only." This means that customers and visitors cannot enter. You'll notice this kind of phrase in many public places: members only, adults only, or residents only. In each case, access is limited to one specific group of people. You can use the same idea in everyday plans. Perhaps you're organizing a quiet dinner and someone asks, "Is everyone coming?" You might answer, "No, it's only the 4 of us." This means that the group is limited to 4 people, and it may also suggest that the dinner will feel small and relaxed. Or you could say, "I only invited a few close friends," showing that you deliberately kept the gathering simple. Imagine that a coworker asks whether you work every day. You reply, "No, I only work from Monday to Thursday." Here, only limits the days when you work. Perhaps someone asks whether you're available in the morning, and you say, "I'm only free after 3. You're clearly showing when you are available and indirectly when you are not. This is one reason only appears so often in practical conversations about schedules and plans. Let's imagine another familiar situation. A friend sends you a long message and asks for your opinion, but you're in the middle of a busy day. You might reply, "I can only talk for a few minutes right now." This doesn't sound unfriendly. You're simply explaining your limit. You still want to talk, but your time is short. Later, you could add, "I'll call you properly tonight," so your friend knows you're not trying to avoid the conversation. Sometimes only helps us explain the reason behind a decision. Imagine that you leave a party earlier than everyone else. The next day, a friend asks, "Why did you go home so soon?" You answer, "I only left because I was feeling tired." This tells your friend that you didn't leave because you were bored, uncomfortable, or upset. There was one simple reason behind your decision, and you want to make sure they understand it. You may also hear someone say, "I only asked because I was curious." Perhaps their question sounded personal, and they noticed that the other person felt uncomfortable. This sentence gently explains their intention. They weren't judging or trying to cause a problem. They were simply curious. Expressions like, "I only said it because," and "I only wanted to," are very useful when we need to clarify what we meant and soften a misunderstanding. There is a small but important difference between "I only called to say hello" and "only I called to say hello." In the first sentence, your purpose was simply to say hello. In the second, you were the only person who called. Nobody else did. You don't need to analyze this every time you speak, but it's helpful to notice where "only" appears because its position can gently change which part of the sentence feels limited. Imagine that your friend is preparing dinner and asks whether you're very hungry. You say, "I only want something light." This means you don't want a large or heavy meal. Perhaps you'd be happy with some soup, a salad, or a small sandwich. If you say, "I want only soup," the meaning is more specific. Soup is the one thing you want. In everyday speech, however, people often place "only" before the main verb because it sounds natural and relaxed. Now picture yourself in a cafe. The server asks, "Would you like anything else?" You might answer, "No, I'll only have a coffee, thanks." You're limiting your order to one simple thing. You could also say, "I'm only having coffee today," perhaps because you've already eaten. These phrases are useful when ordering because they sound polite and clear. You're not rejecting everything dramatically. You're simply saying what you would like. "Only" can also help us make a request feel smaller and easier. Imagine asking a coworker for help. You might say, "I only need a minute of your time." This suggests that the request won't take long. Or perhaps you're asking a neighbor to collect a package. You could say, "I only need you to bring it inside." By showing that the favor is limited, you make the request feel more manageable, although it's still important to ask kindly. Think about the phrase, "if only." This one carries a very different feeling. We use it when we strongly wish that a situation were different. Perhaps it's raining on the day of a picnic, and you say, "If only the weather were better." Or maybe a close friend lives far away, and you think, "If only she lived nearby." These sentences express longing. The change may not be possible right now, but you can imagine how lovely it would be. Sometimes, "if only," is connected to regret. Imagine that you missed an important train because you left home late. You might say, "If only I had left 10 minutes earlier." You're looking back and wishing you had made a different choice. Or perhaps you forgot someone's birthday and think, "If only I had written it down." We often use this expression when the past cannot be changed, but our mind keeps imagining a different result. Another common expression is "not only." Imagine describing a restaurant you really enjoyed. You could say, "The food was not only delicious but also beautifully presented." This shows that there were two positive qualities, and the second one adds something extra. Or you might say, "She's not only kind, she's incredibly patient too." It's a natural way to build your description and show that there is more to the person or situation. You don't always need to complete the phrase with "but also." In relaxed conversation, you might say, "It wasn't only expensive, the service was terrible too." Or, "He didn't only help me move, he stayed and helped me unpack everything." The idea remains the same. One fact is true, but there is another important fact to add. This pattern helps your speech flow because you can introduce one detail and then gently expand the picture. Now let's return to the most common use of "only," showing that something is limited. Imagine that you're planning a short trip with a friend. They begin suggesting museums, restaurants, beaches, and several different towns. You laugh and say, "Remember, we only have 2 days." You're gently bringing attention back to the limit. 2 days may still be enjoyable, but there isn't enough time to do everything, so you'll need to choose what matters most. Texto padrão. The feeling can change when you say, "We have only 2 days." This sounds slightly more formal and places more attention on the limited amount of time. In everyday conversation, "We only have 2 days" usually feels more natural. You'll hear native speakers place "only" before the main verb very often, even when it technically refers to the time or number that comes later. Your meaning will normally be clear from the situation and from your tone of voice. The feeling can change when you say, "We have only 2 days." This sounds slightly more formal and places more attention on the limited amount of time. In everyday conversation, "We only have 2 days" usually feels more natural. You'll hear native speakers place "only" before the main verb very often, even when it technically refers to the time or number that comes later. Your meaning will normally be clear from the situation and from your tone of voice. Imagine that someone compliments your English and says, "You speak so confidently." You smile and answer, "Thank you, but I've only been learning for a year." Here only expresses surprise or modesty. 1 year feels like a short time compared with the progress you've made. You might also hear someone say, "I've only lived here for 6 months," or "She's only been working with us since January." The time feels shorter than people might expect. "Only" can also make an action feel recent. Perhaps your friend asks whether you've already finished a new series, and you say, "No, I only started watching it yesterday." This tells them that you haven't had much time to continue. Or someone asks if you know your new neighbor well, and you reply, "Not really, we only met last week." The relationship is still new, so it makes sense that you don't know very much about the person yet. Now imagine that you're explaining a small mistake. Perhaps you accidentally used someone else's cup in the kitchen. When they mention it, you say, "Oh, sorry, I only used it once." You're not denying what happened. You're showing that the action was limited and perhaps less serious than they imagined. Be careful, though, because only can sometimes sound defensive. A warm voice and a sincere apology help the other person understand your intention. You may also hear only used to reassure someone. Imagine that a child falls while playing and begins to cry. An adult gently checks their knee and says, "It's only a little scratch. You're okay." The word makes the injury sound small and manageable, but feelings still matter. If someone is genuinely frightened or upset, saying, "It's only," too quickly can sound dismissive. Natural English is not just about choosing words. It's also about noticing the person in front of you. For example, imagine that a friend is nervous before giving a presentation. Saying, "It's only a presentation," might not make them feel better because, to them, the moment feels important. A kinder response could be, "It's only 10 minutes, and I know you're prepared." Now only focuses on something comforting. The presentation will be short. You're not dismissing their feelings. You're helping them see one part of the situation that may feel easier to manage. Let's try a small listening practice. Imagine someone says, "I only told Emma." Who received the information? Emma, and nobody else. Now listen to this. "I told Emma only yesterday." When did it happen? Yesterday, more recently than someone may have thought. And finally, only I told Emma. Who spoke to her? Just that one person. The sentences are very similar, but moving only changes which part receives the strongest attention. Let's make it more personal now. Think of something you only do on certain days. Perhaps you only drink coffee in the morning, only cook at home during the week, or only watch films on Friday nights. Complete this sentence quietly in your mind. I only. There's no need to speak perfectly. Just choose something true about your life. When the sentence is connected to your own routine, it becomes much easier to remember and use naturally. Now think about something you only recently started doing. Maybe you only started exercising last month, began learning English a few weeks ago, or met a new coworker yesterday. You could say, "I only started a few weeks ago," or "We only met yesterday." These sentences can explain why something still feels unfamiliar. They remind the listener that you're at the beginning, so you may still need a little time to become comfortable. Here's another situation. A friend sees several shopping bags in your car and laughs, "Did you buy the whole shop?" You might smile and say, "No, I only bought a few things." Of course, the bags may suggest otherwise, and that makes the response playful. Only often appears in light, humorous conversations when we want to make something sound smaller than it looks. Your expression and your voice can make the sentence feel warm and amusing. Imagine that someone invites you out, but you're feeling tired. You still want to see them, so you say, "I can come, but only for an hour." This clearly sets a limit without rejecting the invitation. You could also say, "I'll come for a little while, but I can only stay until 9. These phrases are useful when you want to be friendly and honest at the same time. You're saying yes, while also protecting your time and energy. Only can sound especially warm when we use it to describe something unique. You might tell someone, "You're the only person I can talk to about this," or say, "This is the only place where I truly feel relaxed." Here only doesn't make something feel small, it makes it feel special. One person or place stands apart from all the others. Depending on the situation, this little word can express trust, closeness, comfort, or deep appreciation. You might also hear someone say, "I'm only trying to help." This often appears when good intentions have been misunderstood. Imagine giving advice to a friend, but they become frustrated. You gently explain, "I'm not judging you. I'm only trying to help." The sentence shows that your intention was caring, even if your words didn't have the effect you expected. Sometimes explaining our intention can soften the moment and reopen the conversation. Let's imagine one more conversation. "Did you make this cake yourself?" "Yes, but it was only a simple recipe." "It doesn't look simple. It looks amazing." "Well, I only followed the instructions." Here, the speaker uses only to sound modest. They make their effort seem smaller, while the other person continues to appreciate it. You'll hear this often when people receive a compliment and don't want to sound too proud of what they've done. Before we finish, notice how much this small word can express. Only can show that something feels limited, recent, inexpensive, simple, or unique. It can help you explain your intentions, soften a request, reassure someone, or express a wish. You don't need to remember every possibility today. The most important thing is to keep noticing only when you hear it and pay attention to the feeling it adds to the sentence. Today, try creating 3 simple sentences about your own life. You might say, "I only work 4 days a week," "I've only been here for a few months," or "I only need a little more time." Then imagine when you would naturally say each one. Connecting English to real moments makes the language feel more familiar. Little by little, only will stop feeling like a word you need to study and start becoming a natural part of the way you speak. As you go through your day, listen for this little word in conversations, films, podcasts, or messages. Notice what comes after it and what the speaker is trying to express. Are they showing a limit, making something sound smaller, explaining an intention, or describing something special? You may be surprised by how often only appears. And each time you notice it, you're building a deeper and more natural understanding of everyday English. I'm so glad you spent this time with me today. I hope these examples helped you feel more comfortable with only and showed you how expressive such a small word can be. Keep listening, keep noticing, and be patient with yourself as your English grows naturally. Until then, keep bringing a little English into your everyday life. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next episode.